Like they advertised one match by crashing a car into one of the wrestlers. Not a total victory of Russia, which now we're seeing. He goes on.
Gigantic bag of flaccid dicks. Sorry, continue.
Which, when you open them up, you find out that they're all cockroaches inside.
Yeah. No, I don't know if anybody else is ever going to laugh this hard at anything we say.
We can actually both look out my window right now and see some very pretty yellow flowers that I'm going to be eradicating. This is a Geek History of Time.
I'm Ed Blaylock. I'm a world history teacher at the 7th grade level. God help me. And the Catholic in the room, it should be noted. And I have been a geek basically all my life. As I mentioned in our introduction last episode, my very first real defining moment of geekdom was probably when I found my father's copies of the Lord of the Rings series, including The Hobbit, that were the banned books edition from the 1960s, referred to by many people as the hippie covers.
Wow!
Because of the nature of the artwork. How about you?
I'm Damian Harmony. I'm a Latin teacher, formerly a social science teacher at the high school level. Longtime geek. I dare say one of the first times I ever found a comic book was when I was at my grandmother's house, and I found a box of my dad's old comics. Oh, wow. Turns out he was into Mr. Natural, so I was in therapy for a while.
That's good.
Yeah,
well done.
Thank you.
Well done.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I appreciate it. But, I started watching wrestling a few years before that, actually. Yeah. And I've been a huge wrestling fan ever since. I actually consider it high art.
Yeah.
In the same way that other people consider opera high art. It's quite frankly the same thing. It's just more oil and less singing.
I like that.
So, yeah.
I like that.
So
they're all love, blood, and death.
There you go. They really are.
I'm sorry, love, blood, and rhetoric. Not a lot of rhetoric in wrestling, though.
What one wrestling promoter
Tom Stoppard.
What one wrestling promoter said was, it's really easy to write a wrestling storyline. Pick a deadly sin. And he ain't wrong.
He ain't.
He really isn't.
He really ain't.
It's kind of cool.
For my limited knowledge of the form, that actually that works.
Yeah.
And also, it ain't that hard to write opera.
No.
Pick a deadly sin.
There you go.
Then halfway through the script, pick another one.
Yeah, there you go.
Is usually what winds up happening.
And then learn to hold a note.
Yeah.
So.
Well, that's how you perform it. That's
true.
Not writing it. You don't need to know how to sing.
Good point. So last time we got into the territory that would later become known as the WCW.
Yes.
It was the Georgia's Championship Wrestling.
Yeah.
It was known as the NWA. It became kind of the standard bearer in the same way that like Band-Aid is the standard bearer for adhesive bandages.
Okay.
Mid-South as well. Those really kind of captured all the attention. The others were still out there, but the one that was really making it, and some of this has to do with location, some of this has to do with cable eventually, but also it has to do with the narrative that it was really pushing and answering at the same time. Because again, art both shapes and reflects us. And it absolutely was doing that. And to give you an idea as to where these territories are, I've got this map here. And if you notice, what we're talking about is essentially from the Carolinas down the coast through Georgia, stopping, not getting into Florida except for the Panhandle, Junior, Alabama. Stopping when you get into Louisiana, though, too. And going up just a little bit north, you get into Arkansas, maybe a little bit, but for the most part, you even stop before you get to West Virginia. So it's just this chunk right down here.
The real, honest to God, no kidding, beating heart of the Confederacy in the Civil War.
Funny you would mention that.
The true birthplace of secession, of course, is South Carolina. So I'm sure you have a connection you're gonna bring up.
No, I don't think there is one. No, it's fine. Yeah. Yeah, that is why it's called Wrestling and the Lost Cause.
Yeah.
So last time I talked about just the overall structure was that
Yeah.
it was just always you're essentially paying money to go see the good guy get dicked over. Just how are they going to do it this time?
By opera. I
Right.
mean, like that
Yeah.
is a yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
tragedy. Southern wrestling is tragedy.
Yes.
Northern wrestling is comedy.
Triumph.
Well, triumph, but in the
in the
sense
larger
of
sense,
classical
yes.
theater, tragedy ends with the hero and to a lesser extent everybody dying.
Right.
And in classical theater, a comedy is any play in which the natural order is restored at the end.
Yes.
And there was a thought I had last episode about Apollonian and Dionysian.
Ooh, yeah.
Which I'll get back to after we've gotten farther into this one. So keep going.
Yeah. So to establish this this pattern, I'll point out a couple feuds to you.
Okay.
Ric Flair and the Four Horsemen versus Dusty Rhodes.
Okay.
So Dusty Rhodes stands hard. He's the only one. There's a wonderful promo he gives. They injured him. He comes back, and he's had hard times. Mm-hmm. And they put hard times on Dusty Rhodes. And he goes on for 2 minutes about how you don't put hard times on a man and how you don't understand hard times. And hard times is when a computer has replaced your job and a place where you worked for 30 years gives you a gold watch and tells you thank you, and now you can't feed your family. And hard times is when a mother has to take up a second job, and so on and so on. I mean, it's just drawing on all kinds of, frankly, Confederacy suffering. Mm-hmm. And he called it is called the Hard Times promo. You could go onto YouTube and type in Dusty Rhodes, and the next word it'll predict for you almost always will be hard times.
Oh wow.
And if you don't, you just put Dusty Rhodes hard, and it still gives you hard times.
Okay.
Yeah,
because that'd be a dangerous.
Oh,
combo.
if you type in Al Snow hard, you'll find the time that he wrestled with an erection. It's different. But
an uncomfortable evening for everybody involved, except maybe him.
Yeah,
apparently.
yeah.
But anyway,
but yeah. So
cocaine is a hell of a drug, I suppose.
Undersung wrestler Al Snow.
Okay.
But yeah, so the Four Horsemen versus Dusty Rhodes. He
Yeah.
works his way through a couple of them. They injure him. He has to come back. He works his way through them again. He finally gets to fighting Ric Flair. Ric Flair wins.
Jesus God.
Ric Flair and the Four Horsemen versus Magnum TA. Magnum TA wrestles Ric Flair, loses, and then Tully Blanchard sets his sights on Magnum TA. And they have a match in a cage.
Uh-huh.
And there's a chair brought in, and it's made of wood, and they break the chair, and they have an actual wooden spike. I kid you not, and he is trying to shove it into his eye. And you look, and it's not that far from the eye.
Woof.
Yeah, these guys trust each other a lot.
Yeah, apparently. They have to.
Yeah, Magnum wins against Tully Blanchard, doesn't win against Ric Flair. Ric Flair and the Four Horsemen versus Barry Windham. Barry Windham was one of the Four Horsemen at one point, but then he got
religion.
Yeah, kind of, I guess. You
Okay.
know, so basically realized
had a Pauline moment. Fell off his donkey and landed on his ass.
Pretty much. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And then he goes up against Ric Flair. He even defeats Ric Flair at one point, but then the decision's reversed. By the way, the guy who's booking all this is usually Dusty Rhodes. And you get something called a dusty finish, which is where the good guy wins, and then they find some way in the rules to dick him out of winning.
Wow.
To the point where dusty finishes
just to make it that much more of a those sons of bitches emotional catharsis.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
And get you to come back next week.
And get you to come back next week. Yeah.
Maybe justice will be served.
Because you are so pissed.
The Four Horsemen versus Lex Luger. Lex Luger. Big, beefy dude. Oh, my God. From Chicago. Interestingly, a good guy from Chicago.
Okay.
Can't cut a promo to save his life. Frankly, only has 3 moves. But still captures everyone's imagination. And for a while, it's them versus him. But that's a short-lived feud, mostly because Lex Luger's boring. Ric Flair and the Four Horsemen versus Sting.
Oh.
Sting. Very handsome fellow. Comes out from California. Captures everybody's imagination, and he fights Ric Flair to a draw. So he still doesn't win.
Yeah.
Because champion wins on a draw. works his way through all of them. They do all kinds of fuckery and chicanery to make sure that he can't win. He finally ends up winning. He gets the championship. And actually what had happened was that Ric Flair goes to WWF for a while. A new ownership took over. Jim Herd was an idiot. And then Tully Blanchard and Arn Anderson, they go up to WWF for a little while, and then they come back. And so Sting ends up taking the belt into a new direction. Okay. But then again, they come back. But now this also happened in Mid-South. And importantly, I really want to make this point clear. It crosses color lines.
Okay.
In the Mid-South, you had black superstars. You typically only had one per territory, the black one. Sometimes you'd have two. There's a black face and a black heel. But for the most part, you did have this. Junkyard Dog, you might remember.
Vaguely.
He had a long-standing feud with the Fabulous Freebirds. That's a group of 3 guys against 1 guy. So again,
numbers,
1 against 3.
Okay.
But he was the face, and they were the heels.
Huh.
He also had another one with Ted DiBiase before Ted DiBiase becomes $1 Million Man, by the way.
Okay.
So he's not about that. And this one is not about rich versus poor. This one is about he and Ted DiBiase were pals, were allies, and Ted DiBiase betrayed him.
Oh, wow.
So it's about betrayal.
Oh, wow. So...
And DiBiase wasn't from the South. So it makes sense that he'd betray one of ours.
Of course, one of ours.
Yeah. So what were you going to ask?
Well, you mentioned black superstars being a thing.
Yes.
Was The Rock's father one of those guys? Because we've mentioned
Rocky Johnson is a black superstar, and so is Tony Atlas, but they were mostly in the Northern Territories.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Now, I'll get back to a little bit more on frankly, the odd thing about you have these black superstars that they don't very often get the belt for very long. Again, they're good guys, so they don't.
Yeah, they're faces. So
right. So they're chasing, but they absolutely get cheered on. So what's happening in the South was that the narrative of the lost cause is playing out in wrestling.
Okay.
Scrappy, against all odds, the person who's from here is taking on the powers that are greater than himself.
Yeah.
It's taking on foreign monsters, taking on arrogant aristocrats, people who aren't... They might have been born here, and they might have owned land from here for a long time, but they're not one of us. They're the rich guy on the hill. And they're usually outnumbered. They lose, and they lose, and they lose, and they lose. Then they finally win, only to have it cut short by treachery or incompetence of those in charge.
Yeah.
So, yeah, like I said, color didn't matter. Junkyard Dog was from here. He was our guy.
Okay.
And that's what mattered way more. So the natural order of things is if you're from here, you fight the good fight no matter what, knowing that it's a lost cause. Color doesn't matter as much as culture matters in these southern territories. It even had a long history of integrating audiences on some levels. Wrestling did. Way more than any other sport.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. All right. So first off, you got black guys wrestling white guys.
Yeah.
You know, you don't have integration of much of anything. You certainly don't have it of the schools. Sputnik Monroe is this heel in the South. He was a dandy heel.
Okay.
Okay, so he's not an aristocratic heel. He's a dandy heel.
Okay.
Slight difference. Okay. But you can imagine he's prissy and what have you, right? And if you were a heel in Southern Territories, you lived your gimmick 24/7. You didn't get to turn it off.
Oh, really?
Yeah. That's a big deal in the South. Strangely, they really like their authenticity. Well, they really like committing to their fiction.
Yeah.
If you were a, quote, Russian, then you were a Russian. Oh, if you didn't know any Russian, you'd grunt and you wouldn't say much. For years.
Really?
The whole time.
Holy cow.
Yeah. This is called kayfabe. Keeping kayfabe is keeping up the fiction outside of the ring, right? Okay. They kayfabed hard in the South because if there's one thing the South seems to like, it's consistency in its fiction.
Okay.
Sputnik Monroe would for real get arrested for carousing. And it was because he was often present in places that were relegated to black people in Memphis.
Okay.
He'd get a black lawyer to represent him in court, and he'd go right back to where he was arrested and keep partying, which makes him, now he's white, makes him a hero to black people in the South, for wrestling fans anyway. Then they'd come to his shows.
Okay.
But they had to sit in the balcony. Because, And what he did was he said, I'm sorry, no, I'm not going to work in this building if you don't integrate all the seats. No shit. This was the 1950s.
Holy moly.
And he was such a draw that they integrated.
The promoters would integrate because they knew they'd
get money.
They needed the money.
Yeah.
Wow.
The wrestling, more than any other sport, recognized green over blue and green over black and white.
Wow.
But, and like I said, faces could absolutely be black. Junkyard Dog. Ron Simmons, first black champion in WCW. Bobo Brazil.
Okay.
Bad Leroy Brown.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. Typically, there's only one main black face per territory, and they'd rotate around. So it'd be like everybody shuffles to the left in December kind of thing. At its core, Lost Cause culture is alive and well in the South and in Southern wrestling, in territory. And these are the territory days. In Southern territories, it was that. And as a result, it was far bloodier.
Okay.
Far feudier. Like, the feuds are what really sold it.
Yeah.
And the blood paid it off. And they were far more interested in the struggle and ultimately the loss and the sympathy for the face who lost than it was about good prevailing.
Okay. And now I got to get pointy-headed about
Do it.
this. Because one of the major differences culturally between the North and the South prior to the Civil War was religious.
Yes.
The North was what we refer to now as mainline Protestant. You were a Presbyterian, you were a Lutheran, you were, you went to church on Sunday. It was all very cut and dried, staid, cut and butter square Christianity.
Yep.
And it was, temperance leagues and all that kind of stuff.
Sure.
And religiously, theologically, there was a very strong Apollonian. This is where I get into
Apollo versus Dionysus.
Dionysian. It was intensely Apollonian.
Yeah.
It was our God is a God of order and everybody getting along and noblesse oblige. In the Northeast, politically, if you had money, there was an expectation
that you took care of the poor.
This is one of those few things that we can actually thank the Puritans for. There was this idea that if you were fortunate financially, part of your job was to help the poor and participate in giving money to the YMCA, giving money to the Salvation Army, whatever organizations,
making a college,
creating a university, and by contrast, in the South, the religion that was there was very intensely cathartic.
Yes,
it was Dionysian, not in the sense of necessarily being chaotic, but it was
bacchanalian. It
was descended from the ideas of the Second Great Awakening, where it was you need to have this conversion moment.
Yes,
in which you have this.
It was cataclysmic.
Yes. This apocalyptic, this personal apocalypse where you have this intense moment of conversion, and if you don't have that experience, you're not saved. Right. And
by the way, God's going to come and pluck you.
Yes.
And not everybody else.
And there's this intense focus on the personal relationship between the individual and God, and it's all. It's all catharsis,
it's almost irrespective of your behavior too.
Almost,
it's kind of Calvinistic.
It's intensely Calvinistic. As the theology nerd, it is Calvinism. Yeah. If I could go back in time and smack one son of a bitch across the face as hard as I can with an open hand,
and he's bald,
it would be
so
Calvin.
Yeah.
Just oh my God, because. Because the thing is, by himself, Calvin didn't necessarily do a lot of damage. He was crazier than a shithouse rat. But he by himself did not do a lot of damage. But the people who took what he wrote and ran with it had... Yeah, as I said, I'm the Catholic in the room. Mm-hmm. So, but all of that is reflected in this story arc.
Yeah.
That catharsis, that... The fight is what there is, and this need on the part of the audience for the emotional release.
Yes.
Of that intense moment of victory that they've had to wait for so long, and then the cycle has to start up again.
Yep.
Because once you've gotten it, you need to get it again.
Yeah.
It's revival culture.
Yeah. Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
And if you go back to the North, I'm not saying they're punching the clock Christians, but salvation was also corporate.
Yes.
So if we all do our part, if we all, okay, it's Sunday, this is what we do.
Yeah.
It was much more performative.
There was a great deal more, there was a great deal more performative aspect to it.
And ritualized.
Intensely.
But and lower stakes. In that it wasn't your personal...
The extent to which you had an intimate...
I mean, shit,
God is choosing you kind of moment.
They put a woman on trial for claiming that... because someone said that she claimed that God spoke to her specifically.
Yes.
Talk about a polar opposite of what you see in the South.
Oh, yeah.
Anne Hutchinson was...
Yeah, no, Anne Hutchinson, the Joan of Arc of the American Northeast,
that's what you have in wrestling, and matches. So here's how you build a match, right? You decide how you want the final match to be.
Okay.
In whatever territory you're in, you decide what you want the final match to be. What intensity do you want it at? And then you go backward from there to the point where how do you start the conflict? Mm-hmm. In the South,
like lesson planning.
Yeah, very similar. Yeah, and the most powerful tool in wrestling is the eraser.
Yeah.
So, in the South, it's going to be bloody. It's going to be in a cage.
There will be blood.
There will be a shit ton of stipulations, by the way. That's another thing the South's really big on. I don't know why. Because stipulations are stupid. I'm like, you have the easiest job in the world. It's wrestling. And I'm not saying that wrestling is an easy job, but like, pick a deadly sin.
Writing the story is easy.
It really
Why
is.
Do you need to complicate it?
Yeah. As the famous philosopher from Canada had once said, Miss Avril Lavigne, why do you have to go and make things so complicated?
Nice. Well done.
So, but they would work their way back. Well, and that final match is what's called the blow-off.
Yeah.
And you're supposed to...
So it's overtly all about catharsis.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. But that's true in all the rest.
Yeah, well, yeah, right? That's theater.
And the idea is, whatever story you finish telling, you still leave both guys with something to do after. Now, they both might take a couple weeks off, but then they'll come back. So you don't want to completely obliterate one guy and put the other guy over 100%. Mm-hmm. You want it to be a struggle. You want it to be dramatic. It has to be, I mean, if I don't know. I mean, if Luke Skywalker didn't have to fight so hard against Darth Vader, you'd be like, oh, what's the big fucking deal then? Mm-hmm. So, in the South, though, it was, how much blood are we going to spill? It was, are we going to get the cage out tonight? It was like, that's what they're aiming at, right? And you book these things 5-6 months in advance, by the way, because that would generate income through the house shows. So, at its core, like you said, far bloodier. Far more cathartic, far more Dionysian. Mm-hmm. I'd say Bacchanalian. Mm-hmm. The audience liked the blood. They liked the feud. The blood really ups the intensity and the stakes for it. And they're far more interested in the struggle they are in the whole thing than like I said, than right prevailing. Now, like I said, this is Southern culture. This is about protecting Southern culture. It's about keeping the bumbling and interfering and ultimately more powerful through no fault of its own white Northerners from ruining what we've built here.
Wow. Okay.
And it didn't matter. Here's the best part. It didn't matter if they won the fight, because to fight was to win.
Just getting the match was the culmination of all of the other drama that they'd created.
The audience would go ape shit when the authorities would come out and say, okay, and now Ric Flair has to fight Magnum TA. Yay! And Flair, what? No! Oh my God! And Magnum TA like, all right, here we go. Doesn't matter a lick what the result's going to be.
Just the fact that he forced that son of a bitch.
That's right.
To actually get into the ring and face him man to man.
Exactly.
All right.
They're ultimately doomed.
You're all gonna die.
Right.
Yeah.
You're gonna lose this war. But how the face goes down, how much blood he draws in his loss, back to that nastiness, back to that borderlander thing, back to that Southern culture, back to that. I don't have to win.
We fought a better war than they did,
right.
But we lost. It doesn't matter that we lost. We fought a better war than they did. Doesn't matter that we lost. We did it. We fought all the way down.
We were fighting for culture. They were fighting for money.
They were fighting for money.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
So, did he knock the heel back on his heels? That's what matters. And in the Northeastern Territories, it is about the rightness of good. It is Apollonian till the cows come home. It was about good fighting back the forces of evil. Evil is always coming at you out of the forest.
Yes, well.
Evil is always coming at you. And good prevails every time. Because their Jesus is the one that wins. Whereas Southern Jesus is the one that gets crucified.
That dies on the cross.
Right.
Yeah. The emphasis on resurrection rather than death and
right in the north, right. Whereas in the south, it's
mortifaction.
Yeah. So and there's a few instances.
To figure out which one is more Catholic. It's a hard question, but go ahead.
Yeah. Well,
the answer is it depends on who your Monsignor is.
There you go. Yeah. So if good doesn't prevail, it will quickly prevail again.
Eventually.
Quickly.
The knowledge. Well, the knowledge is always there that
this will go.
Right,
okay.
The right will prevail.
Yes.
God is not dead.
Now think about this.
Okay.
Civil War.
Yeah.
Our cause is just. We are keeping the Union together.
Yes.
Did Lincoln get killed? Yeah.
Yeah.
Was he a martyr for the cause of unity and goodness? Yeah.
No.
Also, the Northeast also always has this dual nature of cosmopolitanism and plurality mixed with zeal and Yankeedom. And that righteousness.
Yeah. Yeah.
That Yankee sense of good, of community, of beating back the scourge of wickedness back into the wilderness, also Native Americans. Yeah, absolutely fed into the culture of wrestling up north.
Okay.
So you have this sharp divide as to how each side saw the Civil War.
Yes.
Playing out in wrestling and playing out in how they handle individual combat. Where do most of the duels happen, with the exception of New Jersey? Most of the duels happen in the South.
Yeah, well, and one of the guys in New Jersey was a Southerner. It needs to be pointed out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, moving forward, we get to what are called the Monday Night Wars.
Okay.
Vincent Kennedy McMahon. That's Vince Jr. Yep. Sees cable as a way to defeat all of his competitors. And he starts in the 1980s buying out the owners of various territories. And what he does is he gives them balloon payments. He says, I want to buy your territory from you. I will pay you $1 now. But I will pay you the full amount by this date. And there will be payments along the way that increase.
Okay.
Right? But I'm going to buy your territory. I'm going to buy the intellectual property, all the contracts of all your wrestlers, all your all this stuff. You're still going to run it. And if I fail on that last day to provide the final payment, you get to keep all the money. Most of them are like, fuck yeah, this will be easy. You know, I'm going to be the one promoting it. It's a piece of cake. Well, Vince also had gone around to all the cable folks and talked to them and stuff. So each one is absolutely a gamble. He'd buy it, like I said, for $1, pay up later on. But he kept succeeding. And succeeding and succeeding. And he starts using cable and closed circuit television. A brand new thing. Which gave way to pay-per-views later. As a way to spread his kind of wrestling, the northern style of wrestling, the primary color style of wrestling, the wrestling where your competitors look really cut and chiseled, right? These big guys. Remember that Greco-Roman ideal and stuff like that. You look at the wrestlers in the Mid-South, they all look like they could be truck drivers.
Yeah.
And actually, it's funny to listen to the announcers. They'll hold a headlock for like 15 minutes of a match, of a 20-minute match. And the thing is, the crowd is on their feet the entire time. That's some seriously good selling. And if you hear it on the TV, the announcers are talking about, I mean, they're making up all kinds of shit to make this dramatic. They're like, well, he's got those double strength cables in his arms. Like, talking about, like, how you have double tendons and shit. And, like, that's really where the strength of a headlock comes in. Look at how he's, I mean, they're really pulling it apart. So good at selling it. But Vince... he's spreading his shit everywhere. So now it's primary color wrestling all the time. Yeah. Spectacle, 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 which is on television much more impressive than a headlock for 20 minutes. Yeah. Essentially, he invaded via television. And it keeps working. He marginalizes the local territories, raids their top talent, brings those guys into his system, gets them to learn to work the WWF kind of way. And each, by the way, WWF lost a W along the way by this point. Yeah. And it hasn't gone for the E yet. But each system has its own. It's kind of like football teams. You know, like if you join the Patriots, then you're going to learn their system of offense. Their plays. Yeah, and how to deflate the enemy. But his was a Northeastern territory. Good guys always win. And wrestlers... there's so many territories to work, but everybody's trying to get to the WWF because that's where the money is. Mm-hmm. So now everybody wants to get there. On top of that, the guys that are there that are heels know that they're replaceable because it's a heel factory is what they called it because everybody just jobs out. This makes it much more palatable to kids, which is an heretofore unseen market.
Untapped market, okay.
And their parents on Saturday mornings, which is where I started watching, and then on Monday nights and Tuesday nights and so on. And he starts selling TV more than he's selling the house shows. The house shows are now starting to sell the TV shows. With MTV growing in popularity and getting bigger and bigger, the WWF gets bigger and bigger. Now, during most of this time, it does bear mentioning that WWF had a no-blood policy, too.
Because
kids. Their characters were very cartoonish as well. Lots of primary colors, secondary colors, very bright. Guys who brought animals to the ring were really popular.
Okay.
Obviously, Jake the Snake Roberts.
Yeah.
But a lot of people don't remember that the British Bulldogs brought a bulldog to the ring. A lot of people forget Coco Beware was the Birdman. He brought Frankie, his pet parrot. A lot of people don't remember that Ricky the Dragon Steamboat brought a Komodo dragon. Like, everybody's bringing... You know, there's one guy who was named...
a menagerie.
Yeah. There's one guy who was named Bobby Heenan. They called him the Weasel. So, it's just all kinds of animals. Guys whose occupation was their gimmick. So you had a repo man.
I'm just going to say, having worked a summer...
In a
repo company. I was not a repossession agent, but having worked in a repo company, some of those guys could very easily have they had the personalities for it. I'm just going to say.
Basically, guys who wore varied and brightly colored ring gear and had fake names.
Okay.
Very few guys used their actual wrestling name, which was interesting too, because that meant that when you got to the WWF, you were hired for your talent, but very rarely were you hired for your name. Your name, that's something in another territory. And most of the wrestlers in the South went by their real names.
Huh.
So the trunks were mostly solid colored, with a few exceptions, of course, in the South. Is Arn Anderson, I think he had multicolored trunks, but it was red in the front, white in the back, or black in the back and white in the front, that kind of thing. In Southern territories... like I said, their own names, or at least their names sounded normal enough. Typically, they all wore essentially the same 5-color trunks, and they all wore trunks. Some guys in WWF had singlets, some had this and that. Not much variance in the South. It's just you're there and you're doing the job, and it's the drama, it's the violence that tells the story. In the WWF, it's the spectacle. Colors versus colors. You know, Hulk Hogan was at the forefront of this. He was 6'9", huge arms, terrible wrestler. By design, because actually that fucker could wrestle. He really could, but he didn't have to. And it's kind of like how Jay Leno is an incredible comedian, but on the Tonight Show he never showed that. He knew exactly what he needed to do to get to the Vulgate. Terrific spectacle. Decked out, like I said, in primary colors. Took on all comers. Stuck to his what he called the 3 demandments: training, saying your prayers, and eating your vitamins. Later on, he'd add a fourth one, but I forget what it was. I might have written it down later, Bill. He was the ultimate face in the Northeast. He'd start very strong. Like, this guy's unbeatable. And then the heel would cheat, halt Hulk Hogan's momentum, and they would beat Hulk Hogan nearly to defeat before he'd Hulk up and ultimately prevail. Now, think about the course of the Civil War through Antietam and Gettysburg. It's the same basic rhythm. Now, most of your smaller territories are relegated to the gymnasia and the armories in the 1980s and 90s. Ted Turner steps in and buys WCW. Then they're the only real competitor to the WWF, and I'm using that term competitor loosely. It was a competitor in the same way RC Cola is a competitor to Coca-Cola. Like, yeah, they have the same product.
It's an alternative brand.
Yeah.
But it's not really in the same.
Right.
Yeah.
But Ted Turner has a lot of money, and he likes to fuck with Vince. He called Vince, and he's like, hey, I'm in the wrestling business. And Vince is like, well, that's great, Ted. I'm in the entertainment business. Big difference.
Nice.
And Ted's like, and then Ted hangs up, and he's like, I want to beat him in the ratings. And he puts everything he did. And so he starts pouring a ton of money.
Understand.
Yeah.
Listening to this
yeah.
is like listening to the story of like a Raiders versus Dallas game. Because I hate both people involved.
Yeah.
And I just want to watch.
You hope for an injury.
Both of them. Yeah. I just want to watch both of them be total dicks.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So he wanted to beat Vince, and they'd had kind of a rich guy feud going on for a while. At one point, Vince had bought time on Turner Television, and pushed Turner's wrestling product off the TV. It was so weird. So Ted wants to put this Irishman in his place, and Ted Turner is based out of Atlanta, and Vince is based out of New York. Just pointing out a civil war.
Okay.
So after a few years, Ted Turner's company, WCW, hits on something. Now, in 1993, Hulk Hogan left the WWF.
Yeah.
He goes on to do some work on TV, movies, etc. Yeah. WCW got him to come over to them.
Yeah.
They Vince McMahon. They took his top talent. He was a huge name. And WCW starts to just raid the WWF with like, hey, we will give you a guaranteed contract, which at that point was unheard of. There's actually a couple guys that had guaranteed contracts. Lex Luger had gotten one because he was one of the first wrestlers to actually ever use an agent. The Road Warriors had gotten a guaranteed contract, but WCW's given it to everybody. And that's not the business model. And Vince is just like, oh my God, I don't know what to do. Which is interesting because he had shaken up the business model previously, and that's what happens.
And now he's the one getting disrupted.
Yeah, you go up the stairs in your work boots, you come down the stairs in your slippers,
Yeah.
So, they're raiding all the big names. For a little while, it's working okay, but Hogan really just wasn't catching fire in WCW the way that he did in the WWF. And so they try to do everything the WWF had done. Hulk Hogan's fighting monster heels. He fought a character named the Yeti, whose move was to wrap his arms around you and shake, and that was his fucking move. It's like what? They fought a guy called the Giant, and he came out dressed in the same kind of singlet that Andre the Giant wore, and he was a legitimate giant. He's 7'4". You might know him as the Big Show.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, he claimed to be the illegitimate son of Andre. I mean, they just, whatever they could recycle, and it just wasn't working. Hulk Hogan fights a faction of Satanists, basically, which is just weird. He's fighting all kinds of classic bad guys, and he's always winning, and it's just not catching on in WCW.
Oh. I wonder why.
Yeah. People begin to start booing Hulk, or not even care who the champion is. Now, Monday Night Wars happen. Ted Turner basically says, I want to put a show to go against WWE Raw, or WWF Raw, and I want to beat them in the ratings. And so they try to come up with all kinds of ways, and it's not catching. And then they bring in the NWO. Now, what's going to rally wrestling fans in the South is the idea of fighting with a company up north. And what's going to really rally wrestling fans in the South is an unstoppable, corrupt stable of venal-ass heels. Even better if you could combine those two ideas. So a guy named Scott Hall, Big Scott Hall from the first match I ever watched. Mm-hmm. He had been like a mid-level wrestler most of his career. And there's another guy named Kevin Nash. Yeah. Was even more mid-level, like just unimpressive. And suddenly they both go to the WWF. They're huge, and they make it big. And at the height of their popularity as Razor Ramon and Diesel, their contracts come up, and the WCW offered them a better deal. They basically said you could make the same money you're making up there, but work half the dates. And they're like, oh, that would be nice. Because wrestlers...
It's not even a raise. It's just we're going to give you vacation.
Yeah, well, it's you're getting to get paid more per match, essentially.
Well, yeah.
Because wrestlers at the time were working 300 and 350 days a year. Oh, it is a brutal schedule.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah.
Right.
So these guys are told you only have to work 180 days a year. They're like, yeah.
Sign me up.
Right.
Okay.
So they get a better deal with WCW, and then other top talent start leaving as well. But this was totally different because these guys were basically made by the WWF, and that means that like they have the aura of being from the WWF, which is in the north, and they show up on WCW and they start interrupting matches, and they come out with like aluminum baseball bats, thug-like, and they talk about taking over the place. Scott Hall's first interview, he says, "You know who I am, but you don't know why I'm here." And that's all he fucking says. And they didn't know what they were doing at the time. It was not that forward planned. But it was open enough that they're like, oh, this is what they're catching on to. Okay. And then they come in and they're like, oh, yeah, we're taking over. And they're like, what do you mean they're taking over? Is this actually WWF guys? Everybody knew wrestling was fake. Everybody knew since the 30s it was kayfabe. But people in the South really want to believe. Right. Well, naturally.
Yeah.
No, actually, that was John Stossel.
Oh, yeah, it was
which
John
is
Stossel.
Even better. So he gets the shit slapped out of him by a mid-card wrestler. But
You're right. Yeah, it was John Stossel.
Yeah.
Okay, my bad.
So Northerners are coming in, taking over brutally, destroying all of our heroes, Antietam all over again, and Hulk Hogan joins them. He was a good guy, and he joins them. And it looked just like the And so all three guys are from WWF. They look like they're taking over WCW. And that's the entirety of the storyline, is that WCW-grown guys were... There's a thing called putting someone over. They were losing badly. That's to put them over. Putting over WWF guys who were actually NWO guys. And the NWO kept growing and growing and growing, right? Ric Flair and the Four Horsemen are now good guys. And they get destroyed in a cage match by NWO. It's not even a question. They actually wrap up Ric Flair's face with a belt, with the championship belt, and slam the gate door into his face. Yeah, it was brutal.
Holy crap.
Arn Anderson even has to retire. Now, that's just true. I mean, he had enough injuries and stuff like that. But the next week, the NWA comes out and makes fun of his retirement story. And his retirement was a real, I love you guys, I'm so sorry. It was a very emotional speech. NWO comes out and just fucking roasts him. Makes so much fun of him. They mocked everything that was WCW. Even how you said WCW. They would do like, all right, survey time. Are you here to say WCW? Or are you here to see the NWO?
Oh, wow.
Ric Flair had several contract disputes at this time, so every time he disappeared, it would make it look like the NWO was even worse. So that was folded into the story. All the heroes for the WCW kept disappearing, or losing to this faction, or switching sides. They would mob the ring. They would bully the referee. They would beat WCW guys up after the matches. Didn't matter. Lex Luger fought hard. Fought really well against them. He even took them all on at one point, winning the title for about a week, sticking with that narrative, right? Then he lost again because they gang attacked him during the match and the ref wasn't smart enough or able enough to stop it. The one guy that they looked to was a guy named Sting, who starts dressing like the Crow, by the way. Yeah. And because the NWO used a fake Sting, because it's really easy to paint a guy up who's chiseled to attack Sting's friends, everyone turned their back on Sting. They started booing Sting. So Sting was like, fuck you all, and he left. And he didn't wrestle for 18 months.
Oh, wow.
That was all storyline. He was still getting paid. But he was now the Crow. He was a sad clown. The storyline dominates wrestling, and it puts WCW over WWF. And WWF almost goes out of business at this point.
Oh, wow.
Now, think about what the WCW is doing. Is they are using a Northern Takeover storyline to drive everything, right? Now, eventually, Vince McMahon figures this out. Back in 1995, there was a guy named Steve Austin. Yes. Stunning Steve Austin. That's what he was originally. He was straw-colored hair. He was a mid-level wrestler, very technically proficient, working his way through the South, learning his craft. He started in Texas, worked his way up to Memphis, came down to Atlanta. And he was basically a bully heel. Okay. Mid-Carter, pretty technically adept, but he still would find reasons to cheat. In 1995, he got injured. WCW actually let him go by mail.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. They did this a lot, by the way. Partly because they're on the road all the time. Yeah. But your corporate office is in Atlanta. You could send somebody out or you could bring him in. So he finds work in the WWF, and he's labeled the Taskmaster. No, the Ringmaster. Sorry. Okay. He's got a crew cut, and he's really boring, and he's part of Ted DiBiase's stable of boring-ass guys who work for the rich guy. Okay. The problem that WWF is having is that they've gotten stale, and they nationalized, but now their presence is too milquetoast, too vanilla, too Northeastern to succeed anymore. Okay. Culture's changing. It's the mid-'90s, right? Vince McMahon doesn't have the imagination to figure out how to shift next. He really doesn't. So while this is going on, WCW figured it out, and they are starting to use cable because they go on TNT, obviously, and they nationalize their brand, which is on the way up while the WWF is on its way down. Now, they nationalized their brand with this narrative in the mid-'90s. Okay. Now, I love this. I pulled this quote. This is a thing that Vince McMahon actually went on to WWF television and said to the audience. It has been said that anything can happen here in the World Wrestling Federation, but now more than ever, truer words have never been spoken. This is a conscious effort on our part to open the creative envelope, so to speak, in order to entertain you in a more contemporary manner. Even though we call ourselves sports entertainment because of the athleticism involved, the key word in that phrase is entertainment. So I'm just going to break away from that for a second. He's pulling the curtain back, and you never were supposed to do that. He is trying that, and he's basically selling wrestling down the tubes there. He's like, we're entertainment. He's admitting to them all. Now, he already had to do that in court. It used to be that in wrestling, wrestlers actually had to buy an athletic license, like a boxing license, to be wrestlers. I mean, they kept kayfabe. Oh, yeah. So, back to Vince. The WWF extends far beyond the strict confines of sports presentation into the wide-open environment of broad-based entertainment. We borrow from such program niches like soap operas, like Days of Our Lives, or music videos such as those on MTV, daytime talk shows like Jerry Springer and others, cartoons like The King of the Hill on Fox, sitcoms like Jerry Seinfeld's, and others widely accepted forms of television entertainment. We in the WWF think that you, the audience, are quite frankly tired of having your intelligence insulted. We also think that you're tired of the same old simplistic theory of good guys versus bad guys. Surely the era of the superhero urge you to say your prayers and take your vitamins is definitely passé. Therefore, we've embarked on a far more innovative and contemporary creative campaign that is far more invigorating and extemporaneous than ever before. Through some 50 years, the World Wrestling Federation has been an entertainment mainstay here in North America and all over the world. One of the reasons for that longevity is, as the times have changed, so have we. Okay. So just look at the names he dropped, right? Yeah. It's not accidental. He's looking at who's watching those shows and what the demographics are, and he's like, I'm going to mention these things that they like, because that's where the money is. Okay. It's how many quadrants is he trying to hit, right? Yeah. So how does he do this? Well, what's working really well is this lost cause narrative. It's effective, and it's been baked into cinematic culture for the entirety of cinematic culture. So when the NWO is bullying everyone and everything and always winning and good guys are being destroyed, it captures and keeps people's interests. So by the late 1990s, WWF is losing badly in the cable wars. They're called the cable wars. And Vince lets his wrestlers try new things. He has a meeting back there where he tells the wrestlers that he's like, I think I've lost touch. So if you got ideas, I'm willing to listen. Which is unheard of for a booker to do.
Yeah.
Sometimes they'll be like, look, I hired you. You come up with the creative, and I'll let you know when too far is too far. The late 1990s means one thing importantly, narratively. There are no clear good guys and no clear bad guys anymore. Now, that's not Lost Cause. But it is Lost Cause adjacent. Mm-hmm. Go to comic books for a second. Mm-hmm. You remember what was really popular in the mid-90s?
Anti-heroes with lots of pouches.
Yeah.
Guns.
Yes.
Lots of guns. Guys with,
yeah,
lots of firearms.
And no feet.
No feet. Oh, yeah.
Wolverine.
Yeah.
Lobo.
Yeah.
Spawn.
Yeah. What I'll point out. Yeah. I'll point out about Lobo is from the beginning, Lobo was a self-parody.
Again with that. And people are missing it.
And people. And
I don't think we should do parody anymore. It's not working.
Yeah, well, Yeah. I'm with you.
Venom's very popular. Anti-heroes are the thing, right? Steve Austin catches fire because he's a bad guy who doesn't pay attention to the rules ever. Mm-hmm. Bring back that Southern brutality, right? He has a Texas accent, too. He feuds brutally with the good guys. And he gets popular by doing so. That's the thing. He's doing what heels did in the South for an entire generation, but now it's working to make him a face. Once he starts feuding on camera with Vince McMahon, here's the thing. Steve Austin was a brutal bad guy, beat the shit out of everybody, never accepted defeat. Even when he'd lose, he'd do chicken shit moves and stuff like that. And he was just really brutal. That's a heel move. Mm-hmm. They make him feud with Vince McMahon on camera. Now, this is after the Montreal Screwjob, which actually Bret Hart got screwed 6 ways from Sunday on it. But essentially what it really did was it set up Vince McMahon as a bad guy on camera.
Okay. And
they ran with it. They didn't know to run with it right away, but they figured it out. So Austin starts feuding with Vince McMahon. Vince McMahon is a venal wrestling boss who's going to do whatever he can to make sure that this lone wolf, this anti-hero, this beer-swilling man who has his own code of honor doesn't end up champion. WWF starts climbing back up in the ratings by this point because of this. And also they become PG-13.
Okay.
Whereas WCW tries to minimize its bloodletting now. The two companies switch. At just the wrong time, and they're both competing basically for the same mentality. They're both the powerful attacking the singular, and the singular is going to lose. But damn it, if he's not going to put up a fight, he will rip your ear off before he loses, kind of thing. So ultimately, you do need blood and a clear hero to do this, though, and WWF has that. They still have the fan favorite coming out ahead. So the Southerner, it comes out ahead. In WCW, they keep having the bad guys come out ahead because that's the Lost Cause mentality. But the WWF is a Northern territory, but they take the Lost Cause set pieces and then they Northernize them.
They shift them around.
Right.
Okay.
So you do have the fan favorite coming out ahead. But he only comes out ahead at the end. But then he stays ahead for a while. And he keeps the belt. Even though he gets beat the shit out of for like the entirety of the show, at the end, he still finds a way, right? So he's a fan favorite, and despite the rich and brutal boss's machinations, despite Lincoln sending Grant or Sherman. WCW in the late 90s succeeds largely because it tapped into Lost Cause mentality. The WWF succeeds in the 90s largely because it tapped into Lost Cause mentality. They were both nationalizing the Lost Cause mentality. The difference was that WWF was totally committed to the feud to the blood. I mean, Steve Austin had a shirt that, like, I mean, the moment that made him was when he fainted in a pool of his own blood because he refused to give up to a submission hold.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Damn.
WCW balked at blood, and the South didn't stay on board because they want fucking blood.
Okay.
Now, what happened is that this lost cause mentality is nationalized as an ideology into our popular culture through this. I think through wrestling specifically. Okay. And the people who are watching wrestling are 13 to 18-year-olds for the most part. Okay. And on up to 24-year-olds. Mm-hmm. But people who were 13 to 18 in the mid-90s are our age now.
Yeah.
The good guy doesn't have to win. Mm-hmm. He doesn't even have to be a good guy. He just has to tell it like it is and get his moral victory. Mm. He just has to fight. He has to make sure he doesn't give up, and he has to bloody the other side who seek to oppress him, or foreigners. Mm-hmm. And that is what happens with the wrestling. That's lost cause. That's nationalizing, and you can see that playing out in all aspects of our culture right now.
Yeah.
And I think that has to do with how wrestling starts in the late 1800s and how that ties right into the historiography that was happening in the late 1800s. And I think that's absolutely why we are where we are politically.
Wow.
Yeah. That's not the only factor. That's one hell of a factor.
It's a big one, definitely. That is
because who controls the vulgar
way profound,
story?
Way fast.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah. No, control the story, control the people.
Mm-hmm. And you control the story that's most accessible to the people.
Yeah.
And wrestling is the most accessible form of a morality play that you will ever have because there are no words necessary. You have two guys in their underwear in the middle of a ring.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, there's not a lot there.
No.
Not a lot to have to deal with.
So, that's that.
Wow.
What do you think? How do you feel?
You know, at the end of the last episode, you said that it was, going to be depressing. I'm not depressed.
Oh.
I feel as though, again, I don't remember whether it was earlier this episode or last episode, talking about, something in the background of the picture suddenly becoming unavoidably clear, and wait, how the hell did I miss that?
Right.
The Slender Man that's always been in the corner of the frame that you only notice when something happens, and
sure, when somebody tells you about
it. When you suddenly step back for a moment and walk back into the room while the video is playing and go, holy shit,
right? Or how Captain America is actually Captain Puerto Rico.
Yeah. So. God damn it, you had to bring that up. Now it's gonna take me months to forget that, but. It's these are all forces that operate on us at such a sub rosa kind of level that it's like fish don't realize they're wet.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
you who've never watched wrestling.
Yeah. I know. Like I said before, I know what I know. Because of the way that it has bled over into the rest of popular culture.
And you can honestly, that fight between Stone Cold Steve Austin from Victoria, Texas, against Vince McMahon from New York.
Yeah.
Right? That's Katniss Everdeen.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Going to the big city.
It's Katniss Everdeen going to District 1.
Yeah. That's Luke Skywalker going to the Death Star.
Going to the Death Star or, Coruscant.
Yeah.
It's Harry Potter and the Weasleys.
Mm-hmm. Very bucolic.
Having to face off at school against Draco Malfoy and all of his upper crust Slytherin friends.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Frodo leaving the Shire.
Yeah, the roots of the story are.
But it's rural versus urban.
Rural. The rural versus urban, lower class versus upper class. plucky commoner versus, asshole
corrupt
aristocrat.
rich guy, yeah.
That's something that, you don't even need to be, part of it. It doesn't even need to be part of the Lost Cause narrative. It's an inbuilt conflict within any kind of stratified society. But the nature of the way that conflict plays out, I think, both reflects and like you said, in regard to art and culture, it both reflects and fuels so much about how everything winds up working from there. Just the fact that it is about fighting and fighting and fighting and losing.
Yeah.
And then fighting and fighting and fighting and losing. And then fighting and fighting and finally having that cathartic, transformative conversion moment of victory.
Yep.
And then I think a critical part of the psychology of it is the fact that you can't end it there.
No.
When your story is based around the struggle, you can't end it there. Because then there's no story. You have to wind up having the outside forces, snatch it away. You have to have Han Solo get locked in kryptonite and Luke lose a hand, and all that shit has to happen. Because if you win, there's not a story anymore. And
you've got a business model that relies on people engaging the story at all times.
On a capitalist level, there's the business model.
Yeah.
And then just on a psychological level, for the audience, you can't end it there, because if your whole emotional payoff is about the suffering, if your whole emotional payout is about watching your avatar fight the good fight and lose but win morally, then when they win, something needs to happen.
Right.
Because, you get that hit.
Yeah.
And if you're ever going to get another hit, you need to have it taken away.
Yeah. Well, and North versus South, though.
Yeah.
You don't have that need in the North.
No,
it's good guy constantly winning and beating it back.
Because, again, it's Apollonian Dionysian.
Yep.
The outlook in a more industrialized, more pluralistic, more diverse kind of society is, the conflict is, we got all these people who are coming from all these different places, and we all have to figure out how to get along.
Right.
And we need order, and we need, the forces of light and cooperation and doing the right thing to win all the time. Civilization, Apollonian, whatever Apollonian shit you got going on. We need those forces to win, or we're all going to wind up at each other's throats.
Right.
Whereas in the roots of that Southern story, it is people living in much more rural circumstances where you have to rely on, like you said, your clan, your family, your tight-knit little group. And if you and how to put it, and the class structure in that society was one where there was one group that had all the money and all the resources and made the rules.
Right.
I think part of the conversation that kind of came up that didn't get really delved into is, the bad guy winning by manipulating the rules.
Yes.
Is as part of Southern culture back to the beginning of, the Virginia Company, the guys with the money were the ones in the legislature literally making the rules. And
including who could be in the legislature.
Yes.
Like I said in I think the first episode of this was that there was a slave-owning requirement to be a senator in South Carolina.
Yes. And so for anybody who was a working class or a rural farmer in, small rural farmer, not a plantation owner in that society, they were constantly dealing with the forces of authority were inherently corrupt in that way. They set the rules to make it so there was no way for the little guy to win.
Right.
And then capitalized on manipulating the little guy with this very narrative.
Yes.
And
using it against the guy that it's about.
Yeah. And I think that's one of the most remarkable things about the development of the narrative in the first place, is that just talking about the Lost Cause historiography, the people who got the biggest payoff from it were the people who started the war in the first place, and the people who cling to it most aggressively because they feel like they have the most to lose when
they lost the most from
when
it.
When they lost the most from it in the first place are the ordinary,
the non-slave owners,
non-slave owning Johnny Reb, and their widows, and their children at the end of the war.
Oh yeah.
One of the points of Upon the Altar of the Nation, at the end of the book, one of the things they pointed out was that it was Southern widows who carried the torch of the bitterness and
their sacrifice,
resentment, because of what they had lost, and they taught their children this narrative, because of that, and so I mean, this is something that kind of has always been there, and we've kind of always known. But talking about it through this lens, I think that's one of the things. That's part of the reason I was so excited about hearing about this from you.
Sure.
Was I think that's one of the things that I really want to try to do as an overarching thing with what we're doing in this podcast. Is this is something that if you've studied the history, you know it.
Right.
But having it all of a sudden through the lens of popular culture made so unavoidably obvious, I think is powerful.
I agree.
And yeah.
Well, yeah, and like I said, a lot of people, I don't want to say give me shit for loving wrestling, but a lot of people look at me sideways. They're like, how is it that a guy who knows Latin...
You're a college-educated classics teacher, Latin instructor, with a master's degree in
women's history,
and you're a wrestling fan?
Yeah.
I will admit there's a little bit of a frisson of wait, what? that happens when you find that out about me. But at the same time, then I look at you and I'm like, yeah, right.
Okay, yeah. Totally. Well, and then to hear how deep into the woods I get on it, and you're like, oh, of course he did that with it.
Well, yeah, of course you got all pointy-headed with it. Because what else are you going to do? Yeah.
But no, it's I love it for that very reason. I mean, I how to put, there are certain types of expression of cinema culture or literature that I love because there's such a snapshot into what that zeitgeist is.
Okay.
And I'm that way when I'm teaching Caesar. I'm that way when I'm teaching Ovid. I'm that way when I'm teaching Augustus. Virgil, Augustus. And that's kind of the point, is that every single one of these things is absolutely a window in. And wrestling is so unique in that it is the longest lasting. First off, it's the longest lasting TV series right now is WWE Raw.
Yeah, okay.
It's longer than Bonanza ever was.
Wow.
Yeah, and it goes weekly, and they have not had a rerun ever.
Wow.
Right.
Talk about a factory.
It's
right, yeah.
And there's something about that. It's longer than Saturday Night Live by
several years.
Yeah. Well, no, SNL started in 75. But, and Raw started in 95. Or no, 92. But it has had more continuous episodes. It doesn't have a summer off. It doesn't have an off season. And wrestling itself.
There's no hiatus.
Yeah. Wrestling itself has been going without hiatus since the NWA days, since the 1930s. Yeah. And it's been going on TV since the 50s. Yeah. There have been a few times where it didn't show up on any TV. But as an entertainment form, circuses come and go.
Yeah.
Baseball has seasons. Football has seasons. Wrestling does not have a season. It just all the time. And so it's this constant tide of a mirror. Mm-hmm. And it started as a local mirror, and then this one local bacteria became the national bacteria. Mm-hmm. And then to survive, it had to adopt what this other bacteria almost defeated it with. And in so doing, we're all infected with it. Mm-hmm. And, I think it's the only thing that I've found that's like that, too. I cannot think of another form of entertainment that is that long suffering. Mm. That is that continuous.
Off the top of my head, I can't think of anything.
Yeah. I mean, you have the yacht races or the Olympics, but that's only ever X amount of years. You know? But this is every week. And for the longest time, it was that?
Fish. Touring.
Oh. Yeah.
Before then, the Grateful Dead.
Yeah.
But, maybe.
But, it's...
I'm not hip enough to be able to quote facts about that, but that's the first thing.
But it's every week, and prior to it being every week, it was every night in a different town on a circuit, depending on where it was, and it was so local. So
very cool.
Wrestling's still going on, obviously. WWF has a network now that is phenomenal. About
everybody has a network.
It's true, but they have
podcast long enough, we'll have a network.
Here's hoping. I have the network. I've told you how I use the Marvel app too. I'm watching all the pay-per-views of WCW and WWF right now. I'm up to 1992. And I'm seeing them respond to each other.
Nice.
And it's really interesting to see them respond to each other when they're trying to pretend they don't exist. And it's absolutely showing me what's going on at that time.
Yeah.
Which is just fascinating to me.
Yeah, well, that whole comparison between the two of them, looking at them literally side by side like that.
Yeah, yeah. Which is, if I had the money back then when I was, if I was my age back then and had the money and the time, I could have done that for $20 a pop every month.
Yeah.
And just to see how they start ramping it up and stuff like that. I'm very interested in seeing what happens during the lull years.
Yeah.
Because in the mid '90s, they both had a huge lull. Mm-hmm. So did comic books. Interesting. Everybody almost went bankrupt in the mid '90s.
Yeah. Well, I remember DC and Marvel both having big issues at that point.
Yeah. So anyway, I think the next one's probably going to be yours, but sometimes we release these out of order, so who knows?
Yeah.
But what is coming up in the future, just in general? Give us a couple topics that are coming out.
The first thing is I'm going to be talking about BattleTech.
Ooh.
And specifically, I want to look at who the main real, in air quotes, antagonist was in BattleTech as a game that came out in 1984.
Oh, wow.
And why.
Cool.
At least at first.
Okay.
And then after that, we're going to stick with BattleTech and look at the development of that universe from that point into the early 90s and then beyond.
Cool.
At least for a short span of time beyond. Because it again has to do with who the antagonist is.
Sure.
In that setting. So that's and again why.
Cool.
So that's where I'm looking at. I'm kind of fired up about it.
Yeah.
Part of the reason I'm fired up about it is because it's the giant robot genre.
Walking tanks.
Americanized, and so that's actually is part of the Zeitgeist discussion.
Nice.
With that. So
nice.
That's what I'm looking at. That's what I got ready to go.
I've got a couple percolating. I've got the Fantastic Four.
Ah, yes, as the nuclear family.
Yeah, as a grotesque satirization of the nuclear family, and a send up, a critique. I've also got how 9/11 ruined the movie The Alamo.
Oh, okay.
And
9/11 just fucked everything
up. Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah,
a little bit.
Wow.
Also, and that'll be my second 9/11 episode.
Yeah.
Apparently, that's pretty stuck in my craw.
I think it is for a lot of us.
Yeah, very likely. Yeah. But also had a few other ideas cooking up.
Okay.
As always, if anybody has ideas of things that they would like to see, blending
or rather here.
Yeah,
as the case may be.
Blending or analyzing a geekdom in the context of its history, its historical context, then please message us at Geek History Time on the Twitter, or either of us individually. Ed, what's your address?
I am at EH Blaylock.
And I am at Duh Harmony. So please let us know what you would like us to see us take on, and we'll see what we can work up for you. Otherwise, it'll just be stuff that we're really interested in. But, it'd be cool to be able to answer the needs of the masses.
Indeed.
So, cool. All right. Well, for Ed Blaylock, I'm Damian Harmony. Thank you all for listening. And until next time, make sure you roll them D20s 20 side up.